It doesn't feel pity, or remorse, or fear, and it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I'm going to cover the recent decision by Rotten Tomatoes to remove the audience anticipation score because of reported review bombing of Captain Marvel. Of course, you can't review films on Rotten Tomatoes that haven't been released, so the review bombing allegations are bogus to begin with. Not to be outdone, Zachary Levi, star of the upcoming DCEU Shazam film, entered the fray to white knight for Brie Larson as well. It's beginning to look like Larson or her handlers can't handle customer criticism, and her damsel in distress routine is causing plenty of outcry in the entertainment industry. Brie made headlines in early February when she claimed Captain Marvel as my form of activism, using the MCU film to promote her own personal agenda rather than the actual movie. In an interview, Larson said, "The movie was the biggest and best opportunity I could have ever asked for. It was like my superpower. This could be my form of activism, doing a film that can play all over the world and be in more places than I can be physically." Of course, she's already an Oscar-winning actress and has starred in multiple successful films. One has to wonder what was preventing her from her own form of activism before. 1 week later, and Larson still wasn't promoting what an awesome film Captain Marvel is. Nope, this time she decided to ensure her Captain Marvel press tour was less white and male. She said, "About a year ago, I started paying attention to what my press days look like and the critics reviewing movies, and noticed it appeared to be overwhelmingly white male." She basically outed herself as a racist and sexist who uses her power to deny access to professional journalists based on race and gender. These incidents, among others, have led to a large portion of MCU fans deciding to walk away from Captain Marvel altogether. Most customers are happy to leave Captain Marvel and possibly the entire MCU behind in silence. But some would like to let execs at Disney and Marvel Studios know how they feel. One way they could do that, in a rather passive way, is to go to Rotten Tomatoes and declare not interested on the film's profile page. Not the boldest step in the world, but given enough traffic, it sends a pretty clear message. MCU fans have been doing just that, and recently Captain Marvel had a want-to-see rating of just 27%, easily the lowest in the history of the MCU. To put that in perspective, Brie Larson pissed off roughly 35,000 people enough with her racist, sexist activism that they took time out of their lives to go submit a not interested rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, it likely hurt a certain million-dollar princess to learn there are real-world consequences for spewing hateful rhetoric. Thankfully, Rotten Tomatoes was able to white knight for Miss Larson before the numbers got too big. The want-to-see metric now has been fully removed from the website, and moviegoers will no longer be able to voice their level of anticipation for movies before they release. That's a pretty big step, but when you have a damsel in distress with the right kind of politics, the entertainment industry will move heaven and earth to protect them from any kind of negative feedback. Of course, it's being labeled as a way to curb review bombing trolls. As I previously stated, fans can't submit movie reviews until the film is open for business, so that excuse is simple BS. But you have to remember that in the warped minds of Hollywood elitists, simply selecting not interested is considered a hateful act, no matter the reason. Every time a movie creator or exec gets too political and there's audience backlash, mysterious 4chan hate mobs come out of the woodwork to kill the film's box office by spamming Rotten Tomatoes with bad scores. Of course, there's never been any evidence that any of these campaigns have ever successfully lowered an aggregate rating, let alone tanked the movie's actual box office. It's much easier for the elite in their high castles to pretend there's just a group of vengeful internet trolls than accept responsibility for their own actions. I hate to break it to them, but if you act like an asshole, all those peasants you look down upon, the ones who actually make your movie successful, can just take their business elsewhere, simply because they don't like you or your politics. Nobody in Hollywood is entitled to any customer's money. It must be earned, even by actors in the MCU. But the white knighting is far from over, and star of the upcoming DCEU film Shazam, Zachary Levi has placed his shield firmly in front of our damsel in distress, Brie Larson. I just found this out last night, and for anyone out there who thinks you're doing me a favor, you're doing Shazam a favor, or you're doing Warner Brothers, you're not, claimed Levi in an Instagram video. This is not helping anyone or anything. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure what this clown is insinuating. Is he saying white males who are gonna support Captain Marvel are now going to take their business to the competition's movie to support one of their own? Whatever. How about you mind your own business and try not to screw up your own film, which seems to have positive buzz. If we know anything about Miss Larson, it's that she's a proud feminist and doesn't need any man's help, no matter how hard you've been working on the gun show. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that our damsel in distress has been doing some damage control following the overwhelmingly negative feedback her racist, sexist activism has received. Granted, she's still not talking about how great the movie's going to be. Million Dollar Princess Larson spoke with Fox 5's Kevin McCarthy, where he asked her about her recent comments regarding white men. Larson told McCarthy, "It's hard for me to comment on that because I don't know what the headlines were, or what were said, or what I said, or what people think I said." Now this is 100% bullshit. She knows exactly what's being said, or she wouldn't have said this. What I'm looking for is to bring more seats up to the table. No one is getting their chair taken away. There's not less seats at the table. There's just more seats at the table. That's a far cry from what she was saying earlier this month. But she continued, "For the third time, I don't hate white dudes. These are just facts. These are not my feelings." She would add, "Am I saying I hate white dudes? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, you make a movie that is a love letter to women of color, there's an insanely low chance a woman of color will have a chance to see your movie and review your movie." Not sure Captain Marvel is a love letter to women of color, considering Monica Rambeau, a woman of color, was Marvel Comics' Captain Marvel before Carol Danvers. Technically, you could argue she's taking a high-vis role that rightly belongs to a woman of color. But I digress. Her claims of not hating white dudes several times over all feels too little, way too late. Her words and actions have likely already done irreparable harm to her professional reputation and the bottom line of the Captain Marvel film. It will be interesting to see if Marvel Studios decides to continue with their stupid position that Captain Marvel is the most powerful hero in the MCU period and presumed leader of the Avengers following Endgame. Now this doesn't mean Captain Marvel will bomb like Ghostbusters or even Solo. It will likely still be a financial success, but the Million Dollar Princess has ironically already cost Disney and Marvel Studios hundreds of millions of dollars by using their platform as her personal form of activism, no matter how many white knights arrive to shield the MCU's damsel in distress. Of course, these are just my takes. What are yours? Are you in favor of the actions of Rotten Tomatoes? Does Brie Larson need Zachary Levi white knighting for her? Do her latest words about not hating white dudes ring hollow with you as well? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.